Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Okay, round two. Name something that's not boring.
A laundry? Ooh, a book club. Computer solitaire, huh?
Ah, sorry. We were looking for Chumba Casino. That's right. ChumbaCasino.com has over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+. Terms and conditions apply. See website for details.
This is a Hardcore Grind interview with the fabulous and talented author, K.T. Bonds. How are you?
I am very well. Thank you so much. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so very much for spending time with us. Now, I always like to ask, the first question is always a why, right? I like to know the why we do certain things. And I call it a goal moment question. And a goal moment is when thought and execution come together. A lot of times we're really mindful about other people, how they do things, how they move around. But when it comes to us, we kind of deal in lack. So we might think about something or doing something multiple times. Or for years before we actually do it. And so that moment in time that we actually decide to make the moves to complete our thoughts is what I call a goal moment. Because you have that thought and that execution. Now, whatever is going on at that moment in time in your life is what the trigger was to get you moving. So what was your goal moment? What made you decide to start being an author?
Well, actually, what happened was I was working in the New York City public school system as an assistant principal, and when I knew that when I retired, I was going to write full time. And while I was still working in those last few years, I was ghostwriting, and people kept saying, "Why are you writing stories for other people? Write your own." So when I retired, I said, that's my plan. My retirement plan is to publish stories in my own name, because you can't take credit for the ghostwritten stories.
Uh-huh.
You sold your right to that. And so that was my gold moment was retirement. That's when I started publishing in my own name.
Oh, now when you were ghostwriting, what was that like for you, being able to juggle everything?
It was difficult. Because in New York City, there are two types of assistant principals. One type is an administrative one. He does all, the administrivia. The other type is me, the supervisor, who supervises teachers in the subject area. And I had to teach because you can't supervise people if you're not practicing. So I was teaching 3 classes, supervising teachers. My subject is English, but I also supervised music, art, the library, and English language learners and foreign languages. Oh, yeah, I forgot them. So I was supervising a lot of teachers for a while, and you had to write reports. It was difficult, but I needed something to take me away from the strictures of the job, particularly in those last few years when the principal was harassing me. Let's just say.
Wow.
And so the writing was my escape. But it was also like school. I used the ghostwriting to teach me the skills I needed. So by the time I was publishing on my own, I had ghostwritten probably 30 stories at that point. And I had learned and been learning as I went through what were the things that worked, what were the things I needed to fix. So it was like being in school. And it was hectic, but by that point, my children were mostly grown. The youngest one was in her teens. So, I didn't have small children, and I was able to do what I needed to do on weekends and at night when I wasn't grading papers. That's the bane of English teachers, is grading papers. But you know how we women are. We take everything on and we meet every challenge, and we do what we need to do, and that's what I did.
I love it. I love it. Now, and I think as a educator, you will appreciate this question, because a black woman that can write is very powerful. What does that power mean to you?
When was it? Yesterday, the day before, I was in a workshop, I think, or listening to a speech, and someone was talking about the value of the writer for education, that it's our privilege to teach the people who read our stories, not just about the fantasies that we want or the way we would like things to be, which is why I write romance, but what we can teach them about life, about living, about loving, about human nature. Romance novels give us the opportunity to do all of those things. And so for me, as a teacher, being able to put that in a story is paramount. And I mean, I don't like stories where I'm being preached at, but I do love stories where I learn stuff. And that's what I try to do in my small way, is I try to make my stories such that people can learn stuff. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be huge stuff. It can be small stuff, things about culture, things about older women, because I also write mostly older characters, people 30 and over. And it's to give people who don't have those experiences some kind of clue as to what it's like to be a woman over 60, which is what I am, what it's like to be a woman with children, not just a child, which is what I am, what it's like to be a woman in a position of authority, which is what I was. All of those things, I think, are important for people to understand, particularly because, as you know, as Americans get older, they are less and less valued. And that's a part of the reason why I write stories about older people, because at the end of the day, nobody stays 20-something forever. And so, it's nice to read those stories, but they don't touch me in the same way that a story about a 48-year-old, a 55-year-old touches me, because I'm closer to their age. I get where they're coming from. That's what I want to pass on.
I love it. I love it. Now, how has your pen grown? Because you went from ghostwriting for someone else to writing your own work for the masses. So how has your pen grown throughout your journey?
Well, if you're talking about in terms of a fan base, I have a very, 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 very modest following in my Facebook group, probably even less so on the other platforms that I have. My ratings and reviews, which are the things that many readers use to judge a writer's ability, are not particularly impressive because, I don't have hundreds. I have very few tens. I think I have one book that has like 21 ratings or something like that. And then I have the books that have one. But it doesn't deter me. I have grown as a writer since I have started publishing in my own name. I have grown. I have learned so much. And a part of that has to do with the fact that in publishing in my own name, I have had to do the marketing and the promotion to get my books out. So at the end of the day, if I'm not making loads of money, that's on me. You understand what I'm saying? It's not. So now I'm not putting my hand out there and saying to the client, this is how much I'm going to charge you for this story, and when I give it to him, I get that money. This is me going, I have to do the covers, I have to do the blurb, I have to write the story, get it edited and beta read and reviewed, I have to put it in a timely fashion, I have to market, I have to have a newsletter to put it in, I have to do newsletter swaps, anything that helps to make my stories get sold, all of that is on me. And so I've had to learn, and it's been a learning curve, and it still is in many ways a learning curve. There are lots of things that I still don't know or don't fully understand, which is why I go to conferences and so on, like the RSJ conference, because those are places where you can learn from people in the industry or who have been in the industry longer than you have, who have experiences and insight that can help you make something real of the thing you're doing. For example, just to give you an example, RSJ's convention was last weekend, and in one of the workshops, the writer said, one of the things you have to understand as an independent author is, what is your end goal? What do you want out of this? Why did you become a writer?
Mm-hmm.
Because that determines how you market and promote your work. If you're just wanting to write as a hobby and so that you can get your name in print and so that your family and your friends can have physical evidence of your writing ability, your marketing is going to be different from the marketing of someone who's trying to get on the USA or the New York Times bestseller list. And I thought to myself, well, hell, I hadn't really thought about it like that, If you're someone who needs to market because this is going to be your livelihood and you want to make money, your marketing is going to be different from the person who already has a livelihood and doesn't need to make the money but wants to have it be out there in the world for other people to see. And I that was like a light bulb moment for me, and so that's how my pen has grown, is by learning, continually opening myself to possibility, continually opening myself to knowledge, not shutting anything down until I see that it's not for me as an individual, even if I recognize that it's good in general for the practice of writing, but it may not be right for me, and I need to recognize those things that will work for me and then do those things,
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
And I'm glad you said that, because I always say, especially newer authors are always looking for a mentor. And I always say you never need a mentor. You just have to have a blueprint. And a blueprint are those people that's doing the things that you want to do. And you watch how they move around so that you can learn. So when you go to book events, if you want to learn how to be the best at it, you watch the best. You watch how they move around. You watch what the things that they do marketing wise when events come around, and that's how you learn how to work an event. You want to learn how to write a book, and you want to learn how to structure it. You got to read it. You know what I'm saying? You got a great writer is an awesome reader. So you got to know how to read it so you know how the structure is supposed to look like, what it feels like when a book flows. I always talk about eye candy. And eye candy, everybody likes eye candy, but eye candy for a reader is the book cover, the synopsis, the way the colors on the cover, the way the author's name lays on the book. I'm book bougie. I never used to be able to say that. I used to be like, I don't want to say I'm book bougie, but I am. If I read your synopsis and I don't like it, I'm not going to read it. If I see your cover and it's a hot mess, I'm not going to read it. I mean, I'm just saying, because you're drawing me in. I've never met you. I've never spoken to you, but your covers have to speak to the reader. They have to scream and bleed whatever it is that you're trying to convey. If it's passion, if it's seduction, then, and it doesn't have to be half naked people on the cover. You can have a whole shoulder just doing a whole thing, and the shoulder is just giving people life, but it's a seductive presentation. That's what draws readers in. So I'm glad that you said that.
You do have to pay attention to those things.
Now the book High Christmas Love, what made you do a Christmas romance holiday story?
All right, well, I have to give you, first of all, you should know that book, which was 40-something thousand words, I wrote it in 3.5 weeks.
Go, girl!
And that just so you know, that was not the plan. That was I don't know, serendipity, a stroke of luck, I don't know, inspiration up the wazoo. I have this story. This story had been, I have a file in my Google Docs. It's called Idea File for Romances. And I have pages and pages and pages and pages of ideas for stories. And some of them have been a little bit fleshed out. Some have a blurb. Some have a little more than a blurb. This story had a couple of scenes. And I was like, I wanted to write a story, but I knew I wasn't going to get it out in time for Christmas. So what I did was I decided I was going to get it out for January 5th, which is the 12th day of Christmas. And that's how the series got started. So all the books in this series are published on January 5th of the following year. And so the idea for this one about the Italian guy and the nurse was one of my stories, and I thought, I'm going to flesh this out. I wrote it in 3.5 weeks because I was determined to get it out during the Christmas season. And I like Italians. And I made her an older woman. She's 48 years old. I made him younger because I love age gap stories. I made her black because this, I write black women and white men, although I am branching out. But for this story, I wanted a black woman and a white man. And then I said, make her interesting. I only had the basic thing, like she was a nurse. So I made her a nurse in a palliative care facility for people. So it's almost like a hospice. That's where she works. And I made it that she was divorced, but that she had 3 children, and that she and her ex are still the best of friends, but they got divorced after 20 years. And so I gave her an interesting life on her own. And she's been divorced for 4 years, and she's quite happy to be single and not thinking at all about, finding a man. Her husband, her ex keeps telling her she shouldn't let what happened with them stop her. And she's like, but, I was 22 and I married this person, and, I shouldn't have, because clearly what we felt was a crush. It wasn't anything real. And he's like, but you're grown now. You've had 20 years of marriage and experience. You're smarter. And he's been trying to get her to move on to, mind you, while he's trying to get her to date, he's married to his job. But anyway, so and the way that she meets him is he bumps into her on the way. She's going into the coffee shop. He's coming out of the coffee shop. And she's coming out and he's going in. And coffee gets spilled all over her peacoat. And he sends her home in an Uber. And then serendipitously, the husband says he's inviting a friend home for Christmas dinner, which they're having a week early because the family is going to different places, and the only one who will still be home is her. So they all have Christmas dinner the week before as a family. And the person who comes to the Christmas dinner, who is his friend, is serendipitously the man who bumped into her and spilled coffee all over her.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. So there's a little bit of an issue. It's low angst. It's not a lot of great anxiety, except for her. Like, she's worried, what will her husband say, and the kids say that she's carrying on with this man who is her husband, her ex's friend. And for him, it's like, and plus she's concerned about the fact that she's 8 years older than him, and he lives in Italy and she lives in New York City. Like, he lives in Milan. He is a businessman whose base of operations is Milan. She's a nurse in a New York City hospice. So there were those issues, and for his part, he's like, Lord have mercy, I don't want my friend to think that I've been poaching on his wife. So anyway, that's where I got the idea for that story from. And you should know, I might as well tell you, I am doing a project in which there will be an extra epilogue between the two of them. I think is that the story I'm going to give you the epilogue for? I think so. For his Christmas love, because there was a wedding, but you didn't see it. You were just told about it in the epilogue, and so I want to do an epilogue in which they celebrate her 50th birthday. So at that point, they'll have been married for 2 years. Yes, just a little tidbit for the readers.
I love it. Now, you inspire so many just by stepping out and doing what you do best. What advice would you give up-and-coming authors that are just starting out, but they see you and they're like, oh, man, I could do that? What advice would you give them?
Well, first of all, I would go, absolutely, yes, you can do that, which is not to say that writing isn't hard. But the first thing I would say to them is, if you have a story burning in your gut, tell the story. Write it down. And for the first, everything takes practice. So the first time you're writing it, it's going to be rough. That's fine. You're writing a first draft. You have to edit it anyway. Other people who are not your friends have to read it and help you figure out how to fix it. But you need to write it down. You can't fix something you haven't written.
Mhm.
So you have to write it down. Write it down. Whatever it is, write it down. If you have an idea and it doesn't quite fit in where you are in the story, put it a page down. Put it there. Make a note so you don't forget. Because you may not be as old as me, but you will forget. If you don't write the ideas down.
I love it.
Forget, which is why when I get an idea, I'm like, okay, girl, it's 2 o'clock. It's all right. Get up and put it on your phone so you won't forget it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that had nothing to do with age. We do so much, especially when you're a creative. You want to go to work. You got to do this. You got to do that. Other people need stuff. And then when you get a thought, it's like in the moment of something else going on, whether you're asleep or cooking, and you're like, I got to get this because if I don't, it's going to get consumed with everything else. Yeah.
Absolutely. It's going to slip through the cracks, and then where are we? So, yeah, so write it down. That's my first thing. And then my second thing is read, and then read some more. In whatever genre it is or subgenre or trope you're particularly interested in, read those people. Read the people whom you admire in those. And even some people who you may not know. Open yourself to the possibility that there are other really great writers in that genre that you don't know. Go looking for them and read. And because reading is like, I don't want to say passive aggressive, but it's like passive learning. Because the more you read in something is the more you absorb the things about it that you admire, the things about it that you want to emulate, the things you don't like, so you won't do them, or you're not comfortable with, so you wouldn't do them until you've learned how to do them better. It's like school. So you write your draft and you read. For me, those are the basics. You write your draft and you read. Once the draft is written, then we can start talking about how you edit, how you revise, who helps you, whether you have money, yes or no, because I know money is a big part. Spending money to get your book edited, professionally edited, is something that either you're going to have to make up your mind to spend the money, or you're going to be doing many, many, many rounds yourself, assuming that you are able to do that editing on your own. And if you're not an English teacher like me, or someone who has had to do a lot of editing like I have done, you may not want to trust your own editing anyway. You want to have someone else look at it, even if it's a beta reader. And you say to them, I need you to help me make sure that all my content is flowing properly, that there are no holes, that there are no unanswered questions, and then get somebody else who is good on the grammar and the spelling and so on to go through and do the proofreading. Because you know the thing with Grammarly and with those other things, they make suggestions, but if you don't know what the right answer is, the suggestion is not helpful.
Exactly.
Same thing with spell check. If you don't know how the word really ought to be, them telling you it should be this and not this is not helping you at all.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Yep. And so those are the basics. And then, of course, you get to decide whether you want to pay somebody else to do things like market for you and promo for you, or whether you're going to be an indie author and do it all yourself. But that's a whole other thing. The business side of it is separate from the creative side of it. And you have to focus on the creative side in order to do the business side. So figure out the creative side. So work that out, clean it up, sort it out, and then you can worry about the marketing and the promotion. That's how I do it.
Absolutely. And when it comes to the business side of books, you have to research to know what it is that you want to do and why. A lot of times people are bumping in the dark and they don't want to pay a promoter because they're like, oh, well, I can do that myself. Right, but then do it. You know what I'm saying? But you have to research how to do it right. So when you're posting on social media, like if I have a client, the first thing I do is I look at their social media. If I see no remnants that you are an author, where's your book? You don't have anything that shows that you're an author. You're not even promoting your own brand. And self-branding, that's my new thing where you're a personal brand everywhere you go, whether you're at work, whether you're writing, wherever. And so anything that you are doing, You have to promote that. You have to let people know what you are doing, and it's not about it's not about being humble at that point. You are branding, and you have to know that everybody does not fit your brand, so everybody can't go with you, and so
That's
therefore
right.
everybody.
Don't get mad don't get mad if your numbers don't look like your friends' numbers. Stop comparing yourself to other people. Compare yourself to yourself.
Absolutely.
This is where I was yesterday. This is where I want to go today. Did I make that goal?
Have a plan. You got to have a plan. Definitely have a plan and a goal. And this is my thing with reviews, okay? Everybody, especially newer authors, kind of get wrapped up in reviews. But reviews are a personal sounding board for readers. And that means that they personally want to tell you something about how you made them feel when they read that book. Outside of grammatical errors and things of that nature, if they're mad because you killed somebody off or somebody got with somebody else, you've done your job. Your job is to put people in their feelings. By the time they finish that book, they should be in their feelings. Whether they're loving feelings, whether they should be frustrated, you have the ability to erupt passion and emotion in people that you never even meet. So if they put a 1 star and they are upset because Sandy and Brad did not get together, you did your job. You did your job.
Absolutely.
That 1 star is equivalent to 4 stars because they mad because you did what you're supposed to do.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. The only time you should get mad over a 1-star review over a 1 star if it's a 1-star rating with nothing said, so you don't know what the problem is. Those upset me. Because what does that mean? But I had a thought the other day when I was mulling over it, and I thought to myself, some people might feel that 1 is like first, and so that's why they hit 1 instead of 5. I don't know. I'm trying to excuse people for 1-star rating people's stories.
And you really can't do that. You can't do that. I mean, however or whyever they did it, you know that with all the other stars, that 1 star is minute, especially if they didn't say anything. So clearly you might have had nothing to say. You had nothing to say, so therefore I did my job because I left you speechless. You didn't have anything to say. I did my job. You were speechless.
Absolutely.
But you were in your feelings. So, I accomplished what I would set out.
Mad enough to give me a 1 star.
Absolutely. So tell me, what's next?
Okay, so what's next? I had a story that came out in an anthology last year, A Very Pregnant Christmas. And the anthology is no longer available. So what I want to do is perhaps add to it a little bit and then make it my 5th. Is it going to be my 5th? My 4th, sorry. It'll be my 4th 12th Day of Christmas story. I'm only going to do 12 of those, which means I'll be writing 1 a year for the next 9 years. And then the series will be complete because the song is 12 Days of Christmas. Then I'm done. So that's coming out January 5th, 2024. A Very Pregnant Christmas is what it's called. And it's about a minister of religion and the widow whom he woos and falls in love with. She is a single parent to twin boys. And they fall in love and get married. And that's a novella that I'm probably going to try and make a little longer than the 20-something odd thousand words that it currently is. That's coming out January 5th. And then I have a billionaire stories for an anthology that I was originally to have been in this October, but I withdrew because I wasn't doing my part. I wasn't holding up my end of the promotion gig, and I didn't feel that it was right for me to be hanging around in there and not doing my part. I had promised to do Facebook promotion, and I wasn't doing it, and so I called in and withdrew. But I still have the story, and the plan is to get that one out maybe around Thanksgiving. And right now it's called Pretty Boy, based on something that I said in the blurb. He's no longer a pretty boy that people thought he was in his 20s. Now he's in his 40s. But he's also now become the parent of the guardian, and he's going to adopt the twin sons of his, I think, sister, because both the children's parents have been killed, and so he's now their legal guardian. And he doesn't know anything about them. He knows how to be the uncle. He doesn't know how to be the dad because he hasn't had to live with them and raise them. And now he does, and he goes to this parent advocate group that's run by a woman who has her own issues with men and has withdrawn herself. She does her job really well. She's the director of this organization, and she helps him. But in the process of helping him, of course, they're going to fall in love, and she's going to resist it because, this is not kosher at all. Anyway, that's the story. That's hopefully going to come out around Thanksgiving. That's for this year. And then I'm going to start working on a paranormal series because did I tell you I love paranormal stories as well? I'm all about the sci-fi and the fantasy and all of those things, and I love the shifter stories.
Okay.
I have been a reader since I was knee-high to a grasshopper. And I have been reading romance novels since I was like 10 or 11 years old. I used to borrow them from the school library and devour them. And I think by the time I left that school to go back home to Jamaica, I had read every romance novel in my school library in Barbados. So there's going to be a paranormal story about a dragon and a 60-year-old woman. And there's also going to be another story called The Pilot's Wife, in which, and this is all I'm going to leave you with, here's a teaser, how is she going to feel when she discovers that she falls in love, that the man she's fallen in love with is the man who caused her husband's death. And caused her husband's death doesn't mean he killed him, but they were both Navy pilots, and her husband took this guy's place on a mission and was killed. And so, yeah. I have lots of things going on. But I have a writer friend who has said to me, remember that you're retired, right? So why are you trying to keep up with the young girls? Go at your own pace. You don't got to be putting stuff out every minute. So I was like, yeah, you're right. I am a retired person. I do have a pension. I don't need this to make a living.
But that's not why you do it.
Yeah, I'm not doing it to make a living. So, yeah. Mm-hmm. But I will slow down because it does get hectic at times. And, I'm trying not to stress myself out.
I love it. Well, I am so excited for you. I want to see all the great things that you are getting ready to produce creatively for the readers. You will be part of the Cavalcade Free Book Fest that's coming up August the 4th. You guys make sure y'all get y'all one click on. We so appreciate you sharing your time, space, and energy with us on today. You stopped just so you can make sure you were making this interview special, and I thank you for that.
You are very welcome. I wouldn't miss it for the world.
No, but now shout out all of your social media.
My social media, you will find me if you go to Linktree/KDJB. You will find all my social media: Facebook, TikTok. Don't go to TikTok right away because I haven't been there in a while. Instagram, Twitter. I have a binge books page. I have a blog. You'll find all of them at linktree.com/KDJB. K as in Karen, D as in Dawn, J as in Johnson, B as in Bonnet.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so very much for sharing your time with me. You guys travel safe, okay?
Thank you.